The dog has figured out how to stand on her hind legs and look out the front windows. And that's not always an issue until it is. And I just heard.
Until Amazon comes.
Right.
Or, I mean, sometimes it's just like the mailbox. But you shouldn't be able to hear through the mic. But
I don't.
No.
It's a lot. She's a hound. Welcome to Just for Moms. I'm Charlotte.
I'm Caitlin.
I'm Megan.
And I'm Callie.
We are regular moms
talking about regular stuff like
aging, parenthood,
work-life balance,
and figuring out what's for dinner again.
A no judgment zone to talk, laugh,
and maybe cry
about all the things women think about on a daily basis.
So we're just this is a leap of faith, but we're going to start. Everyone's here. Everyone's bandwidth, literally and figuratively.
Right. Sick kids everywhere, right?
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Just for Moms. I'm Charlotte, and then we have Megan and Caitlin and Callie, and we're excited to be here. What is this, episode 5? Is that right?
Yeah.
I see nodding. That's exciting. I'm happy that we've made it this far without throwing our computers out the window.
We're close. So
what
today.
Caitlin, we may lose Caitlin, but we said we would just soldier on. But what have you guys been up to? I put down for my end of the chat, kids sports. And I feel like I wrote that in a minute of having watched like 7 consecutive basketball games or something ridiculous. And I don't dislike them. My kids are old enough that I enjoy watching them. But are your kids in sports yet?
Yes.
We opted out. We tried soccer, and I was like, this is not fun. So we just danced.
Oh no, we lost her.
And now we lost her.
We'll never know. We'll never know what happened about soccer.
I feel like
my kids are still little enough that we can choose to not, so we don't. Our kids are in swim lessons.
Yeah, we did that. That was cute.
Yeah.
Do you have to be in the pool with them at swim lessons?
No. We wait until they're 3 so that we do not need to be. So that's
Perfect.
The family rule. When you're 3, you get to start swim lessons. Yeah.
That's well played. I remember doing that with, it must have been my oldest when we moved out to the suburbs, because in the city, I'm sure you can find swim lessons, but it's not easy. And then in the suburbs, it was just a thing. And I didn't need to be in a bathing suit in February. So
no, absolutely not. Mm-mm.
Caitlin, are you back?
I hope so.
You left us at a cliffhanger. You were like, she was like, we don't do soccer with our kids. And then we lost you.
And then I decided I didn't want to be here anymore. No, we tried soccer with both of my older girls, but my husband played basketball all the way to college, so he wants a sport. Dance is a sport, but he wants like a different sport. And the girls are just not into it. Annabelle tried basketball. Yeah, I was like, maybe you guys want to play field hockey in high school like I did. And Annabelle was like, ew. So yeah, we just danced. We'll see what Arbor does though. She's we don't know yet.
Yeah, Nico's into basketball. That's in our house too right now, Charlotte. So practices 3 times a week. We're just doing 1 league. You can also do Y ball, but that would mean 2 leagues and more driving and more games. So we're just opting for 1 this winter for Nico.
Yeah, that's what we try to do. I mean, I will say that I love watching my kids out there, and I think it's great for them. I am always just astounded, and I think we've talked about this before. I'm always astounded at the level of, frankly, projection that comes from some of the other parents. Like the intensity with which they approach some of these sports is, I know this is not new news, but I don't know. There was a coach the other week that was just like, his face was almost red. He was screaming so loud at 3rd grade boys playing basketball. And he was like, we talked about this. What are you doing? That's not right. And I was like, bro, they're 9. Like,
yeah.
Anyway, that's the dirty underbelly of it all. But we've been very fortunate. My kids have always had very sweet coaches, and they enjoy it. But yeah, that's all of a sudden you blink and that's your life, right?
Yeah, the intensity.
Does anyone else have anything that's new that they want to bring up in the chat before we get into our mom fails?
Still rage cleaning.
I feel like
other than that,
I don't know. Can I celebrate myself for 1 minute? Is that allowed?
Always.
I did something that I'm really proud of. My brother-in-law repaired our bathroom ceiling probably a year ago. and I was supposed to paint the ceiling. So that took me like 2 months. And then as I painted the ceiling, I realized I probably needed to repaint the walls, but I brought the wrong color. So I just only painted halfway down. And that was like 8 months ago. And so I just finished repainting the whole bathroom now. So I'm really proud of myself because my bathroom
It
looks
always feels so
beautiful
good.
now. It took a year.
And you cleaned up. You were worried about your Zoom backdrop. I guess we're not on Zoom, but you were worried about your
No.
backdrop, and it looks perfect. Is it just shoved under the bed?
No, there's still, if you look really hard, there's a little basket of crap back there. But mostly everything's moved downstairs because now I'm
see
just taking a bucket. You don't see it? Good. I'm just taking a bucket and a paintbrush and I'm touching up all of the trim in our house. So downstairs now a mess. Yeah.
That's
So
what
I'm
I
proud
do.
of myself.
Callie, you just moved. Did you have that feeling where you realized how simple all these things that you just put off and put off and put off, you have to take care of before you move, and it feels so good. And it's like that took. I mean, what did it take you, Caitlin? 5 hours max to like finish all that painting? Maybe a little longer, but it
Yeah.
was not like wasn't a big deal. It
No,
wasn't worthy of 10 months of. And then you move, and all of a
no.
sudden, it's like, why am I such a dum dum about this?
I think sometimes it's because it's the thought of starting a job is more difficult than the actual job. Like once you get into it, you're like, oh, this wasn't so bad. This is kind of fun. I'm listening to music. No, my kids aren't around, but it's just getting there. I mean, that's like most
Of course,
things.
there's a fun buzzword for that. It's called task initiation. So it's like the act of starting the task. And they say that most of us aren't like actually like lazy about doing things. It's just that we have trouble initiating. Like once you start, you'll probably keep going. Kind of the theory.
Callie, I need task initiation for my playroom because
No,
it
you don't probably. You probably don't. You probably need to slow down and stop cleaning and take a break.
No, the playroom has not been touched in like a year and a half, like a deep clean, and it's bad. I mean, I even found like a grimy chicken nugget like a few weeks ago up there. It needs like I'm just not you just have to be in the mood because I feel like the playroom takes hours. It's not like just a drawer or the bathroom. It's like hours and like goodwill trips and
I'll give you my hack about it. One,
Please.
I mean, just do it, right? Just start because that's the whole task initiation. But my best trick when you have like a really big thing where you're like you don't even know where to start and it's like overwhelming is like break it down into really tiny things. Like little like okay, I'm going to do like this bin, I'm going to do this shelf, I'm going to take just the goodwill stuff. So break it into tiny little bits. So then that way, like tomorrow, you can be like, okay, I can do this 10-minute thing and then like chip away at it that way.
For
like
me,
that,
I also find, and there's a name for this, but I don't remember what it is. If you connect something that you enjoy with something that you enjoy less, then you're more inclined to do it. So I have like an arsenal of podcasts that I really look forward to hearing every week, audiobook, like whatever it is. And so the minute I start playing that, it's like, okay, yay, now I really want to just be in it and listening for an hour and a half. So I'm not just going to sit around and like pick my fingernails and listen. I want to be up and doing something. So that usually helps me get going. The minute I stop scrolling like TikTok or something and I just hit play on a podcast or an audiobook,
I was just going to say that maybe I should put a podcast on, but I do get lazy, Charlotte. I like to scroll on TikTok instead than cleaning the playroom. It's just easier said than done.
That's what makes you human.
Yeah.
Okay, mom fails. I definitely have one, but I want to hear from you guys. Does anyone have anything that they want to share with our listeners this week?
Nah.
Nah. Well, I'll start with mine. I was realizing, and maybe this is on the coattails of the kids' sports conversation, I feel like my kids are at an age, and apologies to those of you with littles, but I feel like they're at an age where they're kind of happy just to go off and like disappear into their spaces and listen to a podcast or read a book or, sneak something on their Chromebooks. And I feel like we're not doing enough stuff like just for fun on the weekends. Like when they're little, they couldn't do all that. And so we had to go to the science museum or the children's museum. Like we just had to get out and do stuff. And now because our weekends, they're not like busy because of sports, but every day we're out of the house a few times going to sports. And then we come home and everyone just sort of plunks down and sort of melts into the furniture. And I'm having a little mom guilt that we don't get up and go on a hike or go to the Peabody Museum, or I don't know, there's other things that we can explore and we're just not doing it.
Yeah, but I feel like I know that's common in our house too in the winter months. Don't you feel like in the spring and the summer you have more energy to go outside and do things versus January, February, right?
Maybe that's a good point. Maybe that may
Do
be
you feel
right.
like
But
you're
even in the
I've-
winter, like bowling, I don't know.
But do you feel like you're failing yourself or your kids? Like you're taking away something fun that they could be doing, or not taking away, but just not offering something fun that they could be doing because maybe they're perfectly content doing their own things.
They're
Yeah.
totally content, which is part of the problem. So it's not like we go to bed on a
Oh.
Sunday and the kids are like, that weekend sucked. I hated that weekend. But like kids don't know. I don't know. Do you remember growing up? There was never a moment when I was like, I want to get up and go do something. And it was always a little bit of a forced march. And then I look back on all those weekends now as a grown up, and it's like, I'm really glad that we had to go on that nature hike or go to that museum or do that thing. And so I guess I'm sort of in the middle of like, I don't want to be forcing them to do something every weekend, but I feel like there's a happy medium that maybe we could do better with.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a balance. I mean, especially like you said, right now your kids are so busy with sports. Like, I don't know, maybe it's just like the introvert in me, but like sometimes we stay home a whole day, and I'm like, we all needed this. Like, we don't need to always be going and like doing stuff. But I mean, I get what you mean, but I do think it's a fine line.
Are they asking to do things, Charlotte, or they're just content and happy at home? You feel like you have to take
yeah,
them
but
and
they
do
don't
stuff.
know. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like,
Yeah.
No, I get it too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I forced all my kids out on a hike this weekend, and
I saw
nobody really
that.
wanted to, but then we did it and it was good.
right. And it's not coming from like my husband's not thinking of, you know what I mean? So it's like, I feel like he's never gonna. And so if anyone's going to do it, it has to be me. So then there's like a double pressure of like, I'm having a nice time, like catching up on work. But also, like when you're a parent, you're in charge of kind of moving the needle for the rest of these people.
Yes.
Otherwise,
And it's on you. It's
Yeah.
on
I'm
you.
getting this
Yeah.
now. I understand what you're saying because I did feel this recently. It was like, I mean, my family's been sick for weekends, and we were on like day 100 of doing nothing on a weekend because someone was sick. And I think on this day, no one was actually sick, but I was in just such a lull of doing nothing that I'm like, we have to do something. And so I made everybody go ice skating, and it was really fun. And they were like, yay, I'm glad we got out. But I was sitting there thinking I could sit here and just clean and paint, but my kids are doing nothing and I'm going to make them do something now. So I get it. I
Yeah.
understand.
We get houseatosis. Do you get like, I like to be home, but like sometimes the houseatosis kicks in where everyone's like, what are we doing? And then you bring up 3 different options and no one wants to do it. And then you get there and 2 of the 3 are happy. So I don't know.
Did you make that up or is that a
No,
thing?
my mom always said it to us. She would be like, I'm getting houseatosis. We need to leave. And now here I am saying it myself.
It explains
I
so
know.
much about you that was a word that your mother coined, right?
Yeah. I mean, again, I've done reels about this. It's so true. So many things that I do and say, I'm like, oh, my mother. And, I rolled my eyes in. Now I'm like, Megan, you're doing the same thing.
Mhm.
I love it. Okay. Any other? I mean, thanks for talking me off the ledge, guys. That makes me feel a little better. But also, like, houseatosis. Does anyone else have any mom fails?
No,
Okay.
I mean, I'll give you one little one just to counteract because yours is the opposite of having little kids. We have little kids right now, and we're going through a phase of everyone hitting each other. So
Ugh.
that you just
Yep.
are riding it out. We don't need to discuss it any further. I just hope it makes you feel better.
Yeah, I remember always wondering, like, when does the conflict between the children become problematic, and like, at what point is it normal, and when does it teeter into problematic? Because it's just a lot.
Yeah.
Okay, our topic for this week was actually a viewer question, topic, comment request, and it resonated with me a lot, and so I forced the other women to get on board. But the question was something like, as you get older as a mom, what do you do to keep yourself curious and motivated and engaged? Does that sound about right? I can't remember
Yeah.
who. And for me, this has become a little bit of my sort of soapbox that I have on my personal platform, because I just realized that, and I actually gave a talk about this at a local senior center, because if you look at how kids experience the world, they are just fundamentally kind of creative beings that just revel in the process of creativity. They really don't give any thought to where it is they're going. They just love the act of making something. And I think at the time my daughter was making something out of cardboard that, I don't know, if you looked at it, you would have no idea. But if you asked her about it, it was this very long, detailed skating rink with disco lights. And it was just wonderful, but it didn't look anything like it. But she didn't care. And as grown-ups, at some point we sort of lose the thread on the fundamental celebration of not just creativity, but also the process that comes behind it. And I think one of the things that I love about my job and this sort of weird little niche that I've carved for myself online is that I have given myself permission to kind of be creative at any given moment. But I also think that part of that is allowing myself to be comfortable sort of asking the question, like, I wonder what would happen if, or just sort of chasing my tail a little bit and following any kind of breadcrumb. And I think that that is a muscle that we forget that we have. And so I don't know that I have any specific thing that I do as a hobby because my job is innately so creative, but I like the essence of that question, which was, as we get older and we have so many day-to-day responsibilities that may not necessarily bring us joy in the moment, how do we find the time to bring in sort of the things that do fill our cup and make us creative, and what might that look like? And I guess my first kind of word of wisdom would be not to get too caught up in like what the thing is. It's more, how does it make you feel? So if you love working with your hands, I don't know, make a collage out of magazines the way you did in first grade, or knit or watercolor, and really try not to worry about what it is you're making. Just think about how you feel when you're doing it. Because I think that as adults, I don't know, it's all about the finished product. And that's just kind of antithetical to the creative process. But I'd love to hear, I'm sure I have more written down, but that was sort of that's my spiel, because I just think we forget to lean into this. So what do you, when you saw that question, what did you guys think about?
When you posted this as our topic, I didn't think of it the way you just explained it. And now it's just changed my entire, the path I wanted to take as I talk. Because I like what you said, that you forget how to just do things that make you happy, which could be something creative or a hobby or something like that. And I think that when I had my first child, it was like that was my whole life. So there was no other, that's just all my brain was doing, is just like mom, 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 mom. And then I went back to work as a teacher. So then it was be a teacher and be a mom. And I don't know when it happened. I think actually my therapist probably was pushed me to do something, to find something that brought me joy that had nothing to do with work, motherhood, being a wife, like any of the roles that I had to find something else. And she pushed me to find things that brought me joy again. And everything that I've been doing and finding pleasure doing are things that I did when I was little that I forgot that I like to do. You just said like making a collage. I totally forgot I used to do this. Every time it was somebody's birthday, I would make their card homemade. So I would like go around the house, find magazines, I'd find fabric, and I would glue all of these things together. I might draw, paint, excuse me. And I was never an artist or anything like that. And it could be like the tackiest card of all time, but I could tell you why I put every little thing on that card and why, and I did it for whoever's birthday it was. And so I kind of have found myself doing that again. Birthdays, painting things that I think that remind me of whoever the recipient is going to be. And as I'm doing it, I'm feeling this different feeling that I haven't felt in years. Just I'm just doing. I'm not thinking about it. And it's really cool. And if you had not brought this up, truthfully, I probably wouldn't have thought of this at all because we do just move through the motions every single day. Even exercise. Some people are like, well, that's my hobby. And I'm like, but is it a routine? Is it now just part of your routine that you're just getting up and you know you have to exercise every day? And sure, it makes you happy, but is that something you're doing because I don't know what I'm trying to say. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, and I think sometimes as moms, I mean, I don't say this flippantly because it is our reality, finding the time to do anything other than, keep our kids fed and alive can be heroic. I mean, we don't have time. But, my pushback for that is always no one's asking for a 5-hour time commitment to whatever this hobby is. It could be just 10 minutes where you're drawing something even on your phone. My daughter loves those drawing apps. So I think I find myself being like, oh, I don't have time for something else. But I think all of us probably take 45 minutes to an hour a day doing something that we could replace, whether it's, I don't know, looking at our phones or, I mean, I think we could make the time, I guess is the point. Callie or Megan, what did you think about?
I mean, I feel like when I was really early in motherhood, people always talk about like you have to find time for yourself, and you have to, when you're, and I'm like, especially in the beginning when you have babies. I mean, the hard truth is like I'm still in the period of life where I have little children. Like I have a 4-month-old, so I think the idea sometimes where they're like, as a mom, you still have to do stuff outside of motherhood, and you have to find a hobby. It almost feels like this extra job, like you're supposed to leave the house and go out to a physical class, and you're supposed to, so I think that part of it can feel a little overwhelming. And what I eventually figured out is sort of what you guys are saying, is that I can do a lot of this stuff just alongside my day-to-day life. It doesn't need to be something where I'm actively leaving the house and I'm going to a class, or I'm, taking an hour after bedtime to commit to this hobby. It's these like little things where I find 5 minutes or 10 minutes just to work on things. Like, so for me, something that we talked about in a previous episode is I just started reading for pleasure again, which I haven't done since before I had kids. And I picked up this hobby with a 1-month-old. It was usually the time when you have no time, but I just found little, like, I'll read for 10 minutes here, and then I would read for, a few minutes here. It didn't have to be this big time commitment, which I think is why hobbies can feel really overwhelming as a mom, because we feel like it's like one more thing that we have to do, and we're like, I don't have time for it. Or like I love doing things around the house. I like doing little DIY projects, and I've just sort of come to the fact that I'm just going to move I'm currently stenciling the hearth of my fireplace. I've like texted Charlotte about this. I've been working out for like 2 weeks. I've got maybe like 1/4 of it done because I do like 2 or 3 stencils, and then somebody needs me. And it's going to take me probably 3 months. Prior to kids, I would have been done with it in like an afternoon. But it's just, I'm still making time to do it. Like I'm still sort of going through the motions. So I think that's the biggest lesson I've learned, is that I don't necessarily, like, I can still adopt hobbies without it having to be this monumental thing.
And for me, I guess the definition of hobby is not necessarily any specific, like you don't have to go and do like what is it?
Right. Yes. I know exactly what you're
with the holes and you like hammer it.
Yes. I don't know why I knew exactly what you meant, but yes.
I don't know.
I'm jewelry making, or, even like scrapbooking. Yeah.
No, it doesn't have to be some big evolved thing. But for me, it's just that little corner of my brain that is like, there's no reason to be doing this other than the fact that this is really fun for me. And it might be, I think a lot of moms find ways to do this alongside their kids. So crafting is an obvious place they land because their kids can be sitting at one end of the table doing whatever, and then they can be making cards or, I don't know, decorating a wreath or, so I think that's important to note, that it's not any one specific thing. A hobby is just, for me, something for fun that makes you feel good. Megan, what are your hobbies?
Yes. So when I saw this question, I thought in my head, like, remember like on the first day of school, you would fill out for your teacher, like, what are your hobbies? And you hand it in. And I feel like when I was a mom and had young kids like Callie, I felt like I lost my hobbies almost. And again, because you're trying to figure out how to be a mom and all your time is going there, but you want to make time for these hobbies. Because honestly, I felt like I was almost like, I hate to say this, like a loser, because I wasn't having any hobbies. Like I played ballet growing up. Like, why aren't you doing ballet again? And you almost feel the pressure also going on social media, like these other moms that have all these great hobbies. And I feel like I went through a time where I didn't have hobbies. And then once I was done having kids and kind of got myself out of, I don't know, was it a bubble or whatever it was, I made more time for these hobbies. So like I started playing tennis again. And I like my middle daughter, Gianna, is very creative like me. And she likes to make bracelets. And when, we were going to the Taylor Swift concert, my hobby for her with weeks was making bracelets. And, growing up, I always would have that craft creative side, and it's still today, but I felt like I lost it for a little bit, if that makes sense. And, I feel like when I filled out that form, my hobby was probably like to go shopping at the mall and get my nails painted, and now it's like, can I say I like to go out to eat at restaurants? Can that be a hobby? Probably not, but I enjoy it, and I enjoy, working out, but I just feel like it's like whatever makes you happy and whatever you have time for, I feel like is at the end of the day. And, I enjoy being around like-minded creatives like all of you here. And like, that's a hobby. Like we can feed off ideas and, like you text Charlotte about your stencil and I've texted her about rugs and I haven't, so.
Are we all just texting Charlotte our design questions?
We're texting each
Yeah.
other. But I do think it's the magic a little bit of social media. Like I'm trying to think about when I was younger, where did I get ideas for hobbies? And I don't know, maybe it was my Ranger Rick magazine or something. But now, I mean, it can be overwhelming if you're someone that struggles to make decisions. I could see that this would make it really hard. But social media does a wonderful way of bringing, like, I don't know, stained glass making is having a moment on my feed. And so all these people are making these really whimsical, sweet things out of stained glass. And it's like, oh, that looks really interesting. Do you remember when candle making was a big thing? Everyone was making candles online.
Yes.
So I don't know, I guess if you're not sure where to even start, I find that sometimes just like walking through the aisles at Michael's, because I typically do gravitate to sort of visual projects, but maybe it's walking through a thrift store and seeing if there's anything that you could bring into your home and sort of style in a certain way or repaint. So I guess, if you're not sure where to even start, I guess my advice would be just to think about, to your point, Caitlin, what did you like doing when you were younger? Because I think for all of us, that's a little bit of a through line. If you have a bunch of kids, take advantage of that and think about what would be fun. I don't know. I made a bunch of sensory toys one year with my kids because it was just fun for me to like squeeze the hair gel into the Ziploc bags and then figure that out. So I do think that the internet and social media can be, if not overwhelming, but a wonderful way of sort of giving ideas if you don't know where to start.
Yes. Or Pinterest. I feel like I save all these crafts that I'm going to do with my kids, and like, who am I to think I'm going to do them?
But I love your original point, Charlotte, that as adults, we get very hung up on our hobbies having an end point. And so I think trying to focus on like or unfocus from that too. Like even with crafts, like we're supposed to have this end, result, or even with a DIY, like there's supposed to be this end result, but sometimes there can be things we're doing just for the sake of doing it. This is like my husband. I love the discussion too about thinking about what you enjoyed as a child. I was talking about this with my husband recently because he was saying the same thing. He's like, I want to like pick up an interest or a hobby. He's like, but it's been so long. Like, I don't even know what I enjoy. He was like, when I was a kid, I like played basketball. Like, am I going to go? I don't really want to go play men's basketball. And it's because I think we get sort of hung up on it being this sort of end product or this specific hobby, when it could just be something. He's ended up picking up reading with me, and so we've been reading, but it can be something that isn't necessarily black and white with the sort of end result.
Yeah. I mean, and again, because I do so much of this and consider it part of my job, I'm in a really wonderful position. So I can try a lot of things that are also hobbies and bring me joy. I have made so many janky things that go immediately to the landfill, but without exception, I'm really enjoying myself when I'm working on them. I hate the way they turn out, but I'm always having fun painting the thing or doing the whatever. And I think, I don't know, have you seen the things on social media where someone's like filling a bucket with paint and then like swinging it back and forth in front of a canvas?
Yes.
it's sort of like a modern day, those spirographs and it's, the finished product is weird. I don't particularly like the finished product, but watching them do it, that process of creating it is unbelievably satisfying and therapeutic and wonderful. And that, for me, that's like the metaphor for what a hobby should be. It shouldn't matter that this thing at the end is weird and who wants it, but like the act of doing it is so fun.
Right.
Yeah, I think that it can be intimidating. This is where social media can get you, is if you're like, okay, well, I saw someone doing this and this looks amazing and I want to try it. And then you're like, well, my project didn't turn out like their project. Like I started painting during COVID because I was part of this group that we would get together and have a real artist come and do painting lessons for us over Zoom. And so I loved it. It was an hour a week and I would learn how to do a different style of painting. And then when it was over, I would sit there and be like, okay, well, here's my turn to do my own thing. And I would get so frustrated that I couldn't do what I wanted. Like I couldn't execute what I had in my mind, that I put my paints away and I didn't touch them for months. And then one day I was like, I'm going to pull them out again and I'm just going to do whatever. Even if I literally could sit there for an hour and just throw splotches on the thing. And I'm so satisfied. And I listen to a book or music or whatever. It could be after my kids are asleep. It could be while they're screaming at me or they're next to me. And it's my own thing. It's nobody's making me do it. I'm not doing it to get paid. I'm not showing it off on the internet. It's just me and whatever makes me happy. And so if you're listening and you're like, well, I really want to try, I'm trying to think of some kind of hobby. I want to try sewing, but I can't do what other people are doing. Who cares? Just do it because it makes you feel good.
Yeah.
You don't have to sell your product. Just
I saw something it was so fun. It was the person and they paint the same. I don't know if they can see across the street from their window, but it's like the same. They just paint buildings and they set a timer for 20 minutes. And every morning on just like a little postcard, it's the smallest piece of paper, they get out their watercolors and they just paint like a city block. And so sometimes there's a floral shop, sometimes there's not. And it's for 20 minutes, that's what they do. And sometimes they look great. And sometimes they were like, not my favorite. But I thought that was such a fun way of approaching it where you're not going to be able to make magic in 20 minutes. So I think your expectation is already lifted, but you're still going to be sitting in the moment and doing the thing that makes you so happy. I interrupted. Sorry, Megan.
No. Sorry, I interrupted. Pickleball. Okay. This is, I feel like, thrown on us everywhere, no matter where you go. And I don't really understand the hype. Like, I get it's fun and it's great. Like, I can pick up playing pickleball because I played tennis my whole life, but there are like die-hard pickleball people out there right now, like everywhere. And I feel like this hobby is like whoosh. And it's like, if you don't play it, you're not like in the bag and the outfits and everyone, like all these like brands send you pickleball stuff. And I'm like, can we calm down the pickleball hobby? Am I wrong or no?
Is it not for you?
No,
I mean,
I
I'll
feel like
play
there's some
but it's like,
backstory that we don't know here. Like
I don't know.
there's a
I just
long-rooted story that really led up to this moment of
I'm just
Megan
sort of
really
like-
using it.
I also like that, all the brands sending you pickleball stuff. No.
no.
Never.
No, not you guys. Maybe it's
No.
because I play tennis and like I'm more tennis and everyone's like forgetting about tennis and it's like, oh, pickleball. I don't know. I just feel like it's a hobby that's like
Not
just
for you.
I mean,
No,
I'll play
absolutely
it.
not.
Like, you want to play, Charlotte? I'll meet you in Fairfield tomorrow. We'll go play. But like, it's
So
not like,
pickleball is big in my town, but it's
Yeah.
not in my generation is not the group playing it. Like
Okay.
if you drive, they like made a tennis court into a pickleball court. And if you drive by on any day that it's warm enough to be outside, it is slammed. And they're not my age people.
Well,
And they're
listen,
not in fancy outfits.
My daughter and I entered the pickleball tournament at the place we go in the summer, and I made T-shirts. Hello, hobbies, shout out, callback, and we were the nose picklers. So
That's
you're
amazing.
welcome. Okay,
See, you play. That's your hobby.
sure. Okay, let's move on to pits and peaks. Who wants to start?
So I have a pet. Okay, so I am involved in a basketball carpool with my son and his 4 friends. So that's 5 boys. The first time I drove everyone, because we all take turns, there's 5 moms and 5 kids, and it's a lot, but saves you time. One of the boys, and I'm farted in my car, okay? And I'm like, okay, who did that? And they're all like, it wasn't me. It wasn't me. And I'm like, just so you know, like, you can't fart in my car, like Mrs. Chanela. I'm like, no, we don't do that. And they were like giggling. And then the next time they all got in my car the following week, I was like, just so you guys know, you know the rules. There's no farting in my car. You hold it till you get out. And they're like, so that's my pit. When I have to drive.
No.
I know, I tried to keep it short.
That's a peak. That's a peak. You just canceled farting in your
Yes.
car. I mean,
Absolutely.
I guess it was a pit and a peak, but the first week I was like, okay, who did that? We don't do that in my car. You wait till you get out, you hold it, and like Nico was like,
Cringe.
Yes. I had written down a peak, but I have a pit because my nanny got COVID this week. So we've just been on and like, we didn't know until today. She was just like kept feeling sick. And I was like, please don't come in if you feel sick. It's like totally fine. We're all right. But it was just like every morning I woke up and I'm like, today's the day that I will get things done. And then she's like still sick. And I feel bad for her. And I hope that she feels better. But also it's been just a week.
yeah.
Every mom knows that feeling of like last minute losing childcare, just like day after day. It's a mind game.
Do you have a peak, Caitlin?
The one I was just going to say off of that, I'm not saying it because I'm going to jinx myself, but I do have a peak. I mentioned earlier in the episode that we went ice skating. There's a pond by our house and it's frozen over. And my mom bought me skates for Christmas probably like 4 years ago. And I just finally put them on the other day. And I haven't ice skated on a pond since I was probably 11. And it was like muscle memory. Like I knew what I was doing. And it was such the feeling that I had, like I was almost brought to tears because I was like, this is so magical and I'm so happy and it's beautiful outside and it was amazing. And now I just want to go back, but everybody in my house has the flu, so I've not been able to go again.
Well, in your pond, we have a pond that freezes over. Last year, we didn't get to use it once. This year, we used it for an afternoon with sports. We haven't been able to. I don't think it's frozen anymore.
Really? Well, I'll go check ours. So apparently it's a town pond. And I heard a woman saying, she goes, oh, do you remember 30 years ago, there would be a town official, he would come and he'd clear the pond and they would light a fire and it would be this whole cool thing. Well, now the people that live around the park do it. And so there's a lot of hockey players in our area and people will go out and measure. But I was just there this weekend. Hopefully, I think we're supposed to get freezing rain. And
You're
then
just, you're just far enough north. You might, because I think we had one. Mark has been measuring, and it's amazing how if you have like 3 inches of ice, you can walk on it. 4 inches of ice, you can drive like a snowblower on it. 5 inches of ice, you can drive a car. Like it quickly gets real safe. And we had yesterday for us was like 50 to 45. Like it was really warm. I don't think the whole thing is melted, but I'll be curious because it's cold again today. But that's fun.
Yeah.
Yesterday it was warm. You're right, Charlotte. It's probably not safe to go.
Yeah, just depends. I don't know how thick it was because if it was really thick, a day of warm won't melt it that anyway.
Ours was at 4 to 5. Whoever had measured it last.
That's solid.
Thick. Yeah.
I don't know. Mine's I guess a pit, but it's not. It's fine now. Rosie got spayed, so it just meant that our week was spent like trying to keep her from moving around. The good news is that they don't have to wear cones anymore. They now put them in like a little suit. So they can't like
like a zip up?
Yeah, I mean it's not. It's like a snap. The only problem
like a bodysuit.
Have you seen those ridiculous like thunder shirts that they put on dogs for anxiety?
Yes.
It's not that tight, but it gives a little bit of those vibes. The problem is that it really wraps them up nice and tight, and so the kids, if they let her run out they're not meant to let her run out the door anyway because she was just spayed, but it happened and then she pees. And so you have to like unsnap the butt of the suit so that she's not like peeing in her, you know what I mean? So that happened a couple of times, which was not great.
Callie's face.
Why is this better than a cone?
The cone seems better.
Because the cone, like I found that they can't like get up onto, like she sleeps up on the chair.
Oh, yeah.
Like
they can't like jump up.
They can't move around and getting through doorways. They're crashing into it. And this, she just could lie down.
It's always hilarious, though.
It is funny. Um, but like she couldn't. Oh, speak of the devil, now she's barking. But like she couldn't have gotten into her crate, and so anyway, it was
Yeah,
fine
no.
except for and this is just the problem with having too many people in the house. But we're more than a week past it at this point, so she's doing fine. But
Okay.
Oh,
And did
good.
she get sick a little bit too, Charlotte?
sure did.
Yeah.
Oh, good.